Mad Love is a 1994 one-shot Batman story written by Paul Dini and Bruce Timm, with artwork from Glenn Murakami and Rick Taylor. It tells the origin of Batman the Animated Series character Harley Quinn and depicting her abusive relationship with the Joker. It was adapted for an episode of the cartoon in 1998. Unlike the two previous Batman stories I've reviewed, this one strictly takes place in the continuity of the animated series and not the DCU. The story deepens and makes sympathetic this basic femme fatale character. The character of Harley Quinn was originally created as a one-off Joker minion, simply to fulfill a role that was written for the Joker himself, popping out of a cake like a sexy woman. It sparked concern that it was too feminine in action for the Joker to perform, so they came up with a femme fatale Joker-themed minion who would fit the role. They ended up going with the Joker anyway, but because they now had this Harley character sketched out, they managed to work her into the show as the Joker's girlfriend. It's the most stereotypical use they could find for a sexy female Joker minion, but they made her into an interesting villain as essentially the Joker's sidekick, perhaps comparable to Robin to Batman.
The ambiguously gay duo, the ambiguously gay duo.
In a later episode, Harley and Ivy, she joined Poison Ivy on a sort of feminist crime spree, setting the stage for Poison Ivy to become a significant character and implied love interest in later adaptations. Their relationship is popular with fans, at least in part because they represent two villains who work together out of genuine friendship, rather than momentary convenience. Another episode, Harley's Holiday, had her briefly going straight, before making a few blunders that spiraled out of control, landing her back in Arkham. Batman saw the spark of goodness in her and was nice to her, resulting in a somewhat one-sided kiss. Mad Love gave her a backstory and greater context for why she feels so attached to the Joker, despite it obviously being an unhealthy relationship. The original comic book iteration of this story came out the year after Harley and Ivy, but the same year as Harley's Holiday, predating it by several months. This makes sense, as the story does emphasize the same cycle of abuse depicted in Harley and Ivy, but unlike Harley's Holiday, which depicts Harley as a basically good person, corrupted by the Joker's influence, Mad Love shows her with psychopathic tendencies, even before the Joker got his hooks into her. The plot begins with the Joker springing a trap on Commissioner Gordon by pretending to be his dentist. Harley helps, and they hit it off as evildoers working together. Considering what happens later, I half want them to be successful. However, Harley flubs the clue sent to Batman, and he figures it out and arrives to confront them early, before they can properly torture the Commissioner. This is the first big flaw in Harley's ability to assist the Joker, not performing up to standards. Her second big flaw is being a little too good. She improvises quickly, stuns Batman, and makes a one-liner, effectively stealing the Joker's spotlight. Instead of taking advantage of her ability and making a move to kill Batman, the Joker manhandles Harley and screams at her for upstaging him. The Joker runs away with Harley in tow, tossing a grenade behind them, which Batman throws out the window to explode outside, where it's safe? All this action is fast-paced and has a zany energy, distracting from the fact that Batman didn't actually gain the upper hand at any point, and that the Joker made the deliberate decision to not go for the kill because he wanted to do it without Harley's help. If the Joker and Harley actually worked together as a cohesive unit, they could actually win. Of course, the zany energy makes it look like a standard Batman scene where he fights the villains and they get away. It takes a careful read after knowing the themes of the book to actually note the difference. Batman returns to the Batcave and narrates Harley's backstory as no angel. As a young woman in college named Harleen Quinzel, she was terrible at her psychology major and got through her classes by sleeping with her teachers. Or just making out with them because this is supposed to be kid-friendly, but the implication is there for the adult readers. It's a shallow, misogynistic stereotype about beautiful women not being intelligent by virtue of being pretty, and using sex to get by because they can influence powerful men.
She knows she's the one with the real power. The same power that all women have.
It feels designed to provoke an emotional response from male readers, based on disgust that this kind of thing could go on, while providing sex appeal for them at the same time. In reality, most women who do this would have some form of sociopathy, or else have serious psychological issues like real people, and not smug, evil, sexy caricatures. From a storytelling standpoint, It undermines the point about Harley being smart enough to be a villain equal to the Joker. Why not have her be some kind of straight-A student? She could be no angel through selling test answers while working as a TA or something. It would make the Joker's seduction of her much more meaningful if she were smart. Meanwhile, the Joker obsesses over Batman. Harley keeps trying to get the Joker to pay her romantic attention, but he's more interested in Batman. Some people read a homoerotic element into this, where the Joker's passion for Batman allows him to ignore the hot woman begging him to essentially have sex with her. And I can see where they're coming from. The Joker's obsession with Batman certainly allows for a gay reading, which certain comics have played up, and the Lego Batman movies' jokes about Joker and Batman suffering a bad breakup follow naturally from that dynamic.
The ambiguously gay duo. The ambiguously gay duo.
But I doubt any subtext in Mad Love was intentional on the part of the writers. It isn't as present in the text as something on the order of Jonathan Harker's tension with Count Dracula, that other man of bats, and it's ultimately a simple story about obsession. The Joker's obsession with Batman is so great that he ignores his sexual drive. The Joker chews out Harley for messing up his confrontation with Batman, specifically attacking her flaw of not being good enough. On a first read, that would seem to be the main problem, not her independent villainous actions altogether. The Joker rages, threatens, and hurts her in a way that would typically be acceptable in a wacky cartoon environment, and it's not immediately obvious that this is actually an abusive relationship. The way Harley seems genuinely afraid for her well-being is the tip-off that things are not quite right. A lot of people like to ask why Batman's enemies don't just shoot him. It's a dig at the dramatic conventions of the universe he inhabits, and it's an easy go-to for fans who want to look smart by questioning these established premises. It's not accurate because villains do use guns sometimes, even the Joker, even in the animated series. But to an extent, it has a legitimate point, on the order of, why doesn't Wile E. Coyote use the money that he would spend on Acme rockets to just buy some KFC and forget the Roadrunner? Interestingly, Harley expresses the same idea. Why doesn't the Joker just shoot him? That shows wit on her part. If the goal were simply to kill Batman, that would be a good idea. However, like Wile E. Coyote with the Roadrunner, the point is about success at a very particular game. The Joker doesn't just want Batman dead, the Joker wants to defeat Batman in the Joker's branded style of elaborate macabre carnival traps. He considers a plan to drop Batman into a tank of piranhas, and dismisses it, not because he thinks that Batman will survive, but because it doesn't fit the Joker's brand that the piranhas seem to frown and not smile. Killing Batman according to correct performance is more important to him than killing him at all. Harley tries to seduce the Joker again, and he gets annoyed and tosses her out in a very painful and insulting way. Unable to get the respect that she knows she deserves, but unwilling to blame the Joker, she blames Batman for coming between them. The people into reading homoeroticism into the Joker's obsession with Batman characterize this as a love triangle. Even if it isn't really one, it does serve a similar narrative function, especially as Harley may be attracted to Batman. Harley flashes back to how she met the Joker as an intern at Arkham Asylum. Apparently, she intended to write a profitable tell-all book about high-profile prisoners, or so Dr. Leland speculated. I don't like that she just speculates and apparently is right. I feel like a bit more effort should have been put into showing and not telling this part. Harleen zeroed in on the Joker as a subject, and he zeroed in on her as an exploitable way out of Arkham. He flirted with her aggressively, and dropped the hint that he might be willing to tell her all his secrets. She finagled her way into doing a session with him, ready for his Hannibal Lecter routine, and he caught her totally off guard by showing emotional vulnerability. He led her on this story about his abusive father showing him affection at a circus, supposedly starting his preoccupation with clowns, and got her emotionally invested when he described his father beating him, and drew an association between his abusive father and Batman. The Joker told all sorts of stories about his struggle with Batman, and made it sound like the Joker was ultimately the victim. He portrayed himself as vulnerable, someone Harleen could care about, and painted Batman as a man who presents himself as good, but who is actually abusive, projecting his own big character flaw onto his enemy. Harleen ended up professing her love for him in a narration that turns out to be spilling her guts in the position as patient to the Joker as psychologist. He speculated that he would be attractive to her as a fun element to make her feel joy when she avoided fun for years in her studious persona, which would be much more impactful if she actually was studious and not a femme fatale who slept her way through college. When the Joker escaped, Batman beat him up and drug him back to Arkham, and Harley just saw a vulnerable man hurt by an abuser. She transformed into Harley Quinn, fun-loving violent clown, and broke him out of Arkham. She expected to drive into the sunset and live happily ever after as a villain couple who would start a family and kill Batman and hang Buster and Babs Bunny from Tiny Toons. What did they ever do to her? This panel is interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on. Its main shtick is a combination of wholesome family life and horrifying Joker villainy. They even have a little kid pointing a gun at someone. Holy crap! The kid's conflict is thematic of Harley and Joker's different villain styles, with the Harley-like daughter using a gun, like Harley wanted to use on Batman, and the Joker-like son using the squirting flower gag, like the acid-squirting flower that Joker used to threaten Harley. What's also interesting is that the wholesome side of things evokes a super patriarchal 1950s nuclear family model that is probably meant to be part of Harley's weakness for toxic relationships, more than a glorification of historical misogyny. Not that there's anything wrong with any arrangement that makes both partners happy. Harley views this dream as an achievable goal that Batman is keeping her from realizing. And she unwittingly decides to prove herself to the Joker by killing Batman herself, when this is the last thing he wants her to do. She improves upon the Piranha plan by figuring that they would appear to smile if Batman were to see them upside down. She baits him by pretending to turn traitor, and sells it by using a robot to simulate the Joker trying to kill her. Of course, we presume the actual Joker wouldn't spray bullets in Batman's direction. By the time he figures out the deception, she gets the upper hand and puts him in the death trap. You expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bats, I expect you to die.
She gloats for a moment, and it becomes clear that she could actually kill him. She could win as an independent villain. But Batman realizes that she expects to win the Joker's affection, and uses that as his angle to get free. He laughs at her, like the Joker, being a doppelganger of him as a man gaining the upper hand by making her confused, describing the Joker's sob story as one of several recycled manipulations. She moves to kill Batman out of anger, and he points out that the Joker wouldn't believe that Harley killed him, so Harley calls the Joker in to see her success, and the Joker just wants to stop it. Again, it's not about killing Batman, it's about the Joker beating him in a very specific game. If the Joker can't have that, he'll let Batman go. Same thing as the opening scene, now made clear that it's all about the Joker's obsession with beating him in a very particular way by himself. The Joker rages in a misogynistic way. He imagines other male villains mocking him because his girlfriend would be a better villain than him, that he would be effectively emasculated by it. The fact that this is portrayed in a loathsome way leads to feminist effect. The Joker beats Harley and threatens her in a way so overtly menacing that it's impossible to not feel for her, even though she almost killed Batman. He knocks her out of a window and clearly doesn't care if she falls 4 stories to the pavement. The cops followed the Joker there and they call an ambulance for her. Even as she lies in a pool of her own blood, she blames herself for his actions, caught in the toxic relationship. The Joker says that he'll release Batman, but changes his mind. He takes advantage of the situation to kill him with a gun. He doesn't even have the decency to be consistent. He is just scum and he treats Harley like trash.
Scum! You are scum!
They fight. Batman gloats that he was able to manipulate the Joker through Harley because the Joker's own ego would keep him from allowing Harley to kill him. And then he calls the Joker Puddin', as Harley does, which adds to that whole homoerotic interpretation. The Joker gets away, but in a particularly undignified way. He loses this round. Back at Arkham, now as a prisoner, Harley swears that she knows that the Joker doesn't love her and is totally done obsessing over him. But then she sees that the Joker sent her a flower, and she falls right back into her obsession. The comic ends on this tragic note, where Harley is locked into this abusive cycle. The comic has an interesting theme about sympathetically viewing those whom society views as unredeemable. Harley Quinn is monstrous, but the comic leads us to feel sympathy for her. At her heart, she's a vulnerable woman taken advantage of by a manipulative jackass. On the other hand, the Joker is monstrous, appears to be secretly vulnerable, and is actually just a manipulative jackass at his heart. There's a good message about looking for the good in people, but needing to be on guard, because abusive people can pretend to be sympathetic. Showing the Joker's manipulation of Harley is really good because kids could use that to be able to recognize patterns of abuse in a way more complicated than the cackling Silver Age style villain that we usually see in children's media. The Harley Quinn character would go on to appear in other Batman stories, including the main Batman continuity in 1999. In the 2009 Gotham City Sirens story, she joins Poison Ivy and Catwoman for a femme fatale team. As the character advances and becomes more independent, many would consider her a feminist character. But she got her start as this character, the tragic villain locked into an abusive cycle, manipulated by a scummy jackass. Please like, share, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and send me an email if you want to commission a video review, and click the link below to support me on Patreon. Pledges of $5 or more will earn you a special thank you at the end of each video. Thank you, and please check out my related videos.